This time I'd like to recognize Mr. Fortenberry for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, good morning. Pleasure to see you all. Thanks so much for your service. Thanks so much for your enthusiasm. The Chairman and I were sharing a comment a moment ago, and it really, the heart of it is this. Where does the strength of America come from? We don't reflect on that a whole lot. We really don't. And it doesn't come out of Washington policymakers. We should be reflective of that strength. It comes from values and how our values form. They're formed in family life and faith life and through institutions that have solid tradition, that have a vision, that have a mission, that are self-sacrificial in nature, leading our minds and hearts to the higher things. You represent that. You're one of the few institutions left in the country, frankly, with a pervasive effect of bringing people to a set of values that has deep meaning and purpose. So I want to thank you for your sacrifice. In that regard, what we're talking about is absolutely essential. How do we keep soldiers, Marines, airmen, air personnel for life, being part of that military family and upholding this great tradition? So I want to walk through a series of questions with you, but first I want to commend Mr. Jolly, my colleague, for what he did in Florida. I am very interested in this. I think we had a conversation last year in the hallway, and we talked about some of the dynamics in Nebraska. I want to make sure we're harmonizing everything with your transitional programs. So can you come?
I will, sir.
Okay.
I will.
Perfect. We'll set that up with you. We've got certain Department of Labor programs for veterans in the state. Many businesses very interested and acclimated toward hiring veterans. Several universities doing different things. I just want to make sure it's harmonized, that we're all pulling in the same direction. Yes, and effectively leveraging it.
And if I could make a statement to that,
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you help us in these efforts, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. It's a stand that our civil leaders support the things that we're doing, and it literally makes a difference. When Congressman Jolly comes to events like that, he brings people, and people listen because you are their representatives. So I appreciate if each one of you could find time to highlight, come see the great things our soldiers do. And I know many of you already do, but I would appreciate if you could do that because it does advance our efforts, our collective efforts to take care of our service members.
Well, let's figure out a pathway to get that done. This issue of transition is so critical to the well-being of so many people. I want to explore a little bit this issue of credentialing. I think you talked extensively about it. I assume all branches have this process, but what exactly does that mean? I don't want to spend too much time on it, but again, how that's harmonized, or is the credentialing itself in the military actually being seen by employers as a new standard that meets acceptable general standards that come out of academia or other institutions? Let me put them all on the table, and then you can address these as we go through. I don't want my time to run out. TRICARE for life. In the current health care construct, children can stay on their parents' health care bill till 26. That's not the case in TRICARE, as I understand it. Is that correct?
25 until if they're going to school.
If they're full-time students.
If they're full-time students, they can be continued to carry it on until that.
So that's the stipulation?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Is that an issue in terms? I think what the point ought to be is I think somebody ought to do the analysis on this, because I didn't vote for the current health care bill. I need to make that clear. But one of the aspects of it that I think is reasonable is keeping children on the parental health care plan longer, and it actually may end up saving the entire system money. Younger people are healthier, replenishes pools. So I think it would be interesting to see if this could be an enhancement of the quality of life issue for families and actually save some money. So if there's a possibility of any of you could analyze that. Is your recruitment strong? And then Sergeant Major Green, you referenced the military resale system as a significant employer of military families, and I want to learn more about that.
You say the resale system, sir?
Yes, in your testimony.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I assume that's commissaries.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That, the Military Compensation Retirement Modernization Commission had an initiative in there to join commissaries with exchanges. The value of our commissaries, of course, is the savings. People may live, Marines and families may live somewhere far from the base because that's where they choose to live, but they absolutely shop at the commissary. The resale value of getting the goods where they need to go overseas, and what we're going through with commissaries not being successful, not producing enough to keep the doors open. The Marine Corps is a program, just the Marine Corps alone has Marine Corps Community Services. It's tied to our exchanges. If we join.
That's a brilliant idea.
Sir?
That's a brilliant idea.
Well, to join them together?
Well, I don't have the working vocabulary that
Yes,
you
sir.
have, so I
Oh,
generally
Marine Corps
follow.
Community Services?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We're the only ones that have that. MWR is encased in that. Marine Corps Community Services tied to the exchange.
Try not to use acronyms. I
Yes,
know
sir.
it's tough
Yes,
in the
sir.
military,
Yes, sir.
but
Yeah, yes, sir. Marine Corps Community Services
Right.
are tied to exchanges. And the exchange system for us produces a profit to make up in child care funding.
but again, think about that Marine for life,
Yes, sir.
the tie of the family, giving people opportunity and proximity to where their loved one is, participating in the mission. I've actually also proposed expanding commissary benefits for veterans.
Yes, sir.
You could start with disabled veterans. I'd like for you all to entertain that prospect. And I have more, Mr. Chairman. My time's up, so I'll come back to it later.
We can go from the authorizing committees, and a little less from the Appropriations Committee. We all set policy.
So, gentlemen, I gave you a quick list of things. Perhaps you can look at the issue of the tri-care question that I talked about, get back to us, just in a cursory manner, just as an initial blush. The two other things, though, the potential expansion of commissary benefits to veterans, maybe those who are disabled. I have proposed this. It gets hung up here and there. I want to put that back on the table. I also have another bill that I want you to consider and potentially help with. It's called the Veterans Entrepreneurial Transition Act. Now, what this does, it creates a pilot program whereby veterans who are prepared because of their skill sets that they've obtained in the military, who are not in a position or do not need to use GI benefits for college, because the original intent of the GI Bill is transition.
Yes, sir.
And that generally is interpreted as higher education. But there are a lot of, or potentially a lot of, members of the military who have a sufficient set of skills that could move directly into small business on their own. This would provide a pilot project to see how the government could facilitate the upfront capital cost and, again, expand the number of veterans who are able to leverage their GI Bill benefits, and many do not. So I propose that to you. I've talked to numerous veterans groups about this. We continue to sensitize everyone to the potential here, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback, with one exception, but we're still working on that. I'd like you to, again, in your analysis and thinking, see how this would integrate successfully, starting with pilot programs. We test it to make sure that this is functional. So that's what I had, and again, thank you for your service.